Hello, everyone. This is our Tough Mudder for the year 2024 in Seattle, Washington. I hope you enjoy. We ran on a Sunday, which was kind of nice. It rained the night before, and we were kind of nervous going into it, wondering what the trail would be like, if it was going to be super muddy or what it was like, but it ended up being really nice. Our first obstacle of the day was called Skid Marked. It's a wall kind of leaning towards you that you got to climb over. Wasn't too hard, but it was kind of a fun way to start. Almost immediately after our first obstacle, we moved on to our second obstacle, which was Pitfall. It's just a big mud pit that goes up to probably the middle of your shin that you just have to walk through. Our next obstacle was Lumberjacked. It's just these two logs suspended up that we gotta jump over. Coming up next was Kiss of Mud. And as we were running up to it, we could see people coming off of it, but we couldn't see the obstacle yet. We knew that we were going to be getting pretty muddy, so the boys were getting excited and nervous all at the same time. It's a pretty easy obstacle. All you really had to do was climb underneath the barbed wire fences into a big pool of mud. I think this is one of the obstacles that the rain the day before really took advantage of. As you can see here, we got pretty muddy, but we didn't have a long rest because almost immediately after this obstacle came our next, the Mud Mile. Mud Mile was pits that went up and down that you drop into and you climb out of and you drop into and climb out of. This is another one that probably took advantage of the rain the night before because the pits were pretty full with water, which made it a lot more fun. Ladder to Hell came next. This is one of the easier obstacles. It's just planks stacked up and a ladder, and you just gotta climb over the top and get over to the other side.
Roller coaster ride, hands up in the sky, take you on a ride, love to feel the high, we can start again, laughing to the end, screaming at the top, hope it never stops, we could do it all over, thrill is bringing us closer, superstar you're like Nova, oh, so incredible one time, gotta let it go tonight, wanna know what it feels like, yeah. Going up, we take it down. Let's spice it up, baby, right here and now. Hey, nothing could be better. So high up in the clouds.
After our run in the woods, we came up to Berlin Wall. This one was probably about a 7 or 8 foot wall that you just had to climb over. For me, it was a little bit harder. Needed help getting over this one, but Dylan and Nicholas made it over pretty easily, so that was nice.
Roller coaster ride, hands up in the sky, take you for a ride, love to feel the high, we can start again, laughing to the end, screaming at the top, hope it never stops, we can do it all over, thrill is bringing us closer, superstar you're like Nova, oh, so incredible one time, gotta let it go tonight, wanna know what it feels like, yeah, we going up, baby, we take it.
Hero Carry came next. This was just a piggyback ride to a halfway point that once you got to the halfway point, you switched with your partner and they carried you the other half of the way. Next up was just the tip. The objective here was to traverse the obstacle with just using the tips of your fingers. The boys just used one side of the plank, but technically you could use both sides and reach across. At the end they rang the bell and did a really good job.
We both know those moments when all your worries hit again and eat your time. So let's just pretend that it'll work out.
This obstacle was called Electric Eel, and you're supposed to crawl through this water with these electrical wires dropping down. When we went through it, it didn't appear that the electrical wires were turned on, so we were just climbing through and crawling through the water, but it was still fun.
Tonight, let's remember that the past is in the past and it's our time. And you won't forget this indefinite.
After running through the woods a little bit more, we came up to Sack Up, and the objective here was to pick up a sandbag, or as many sandbags as you wanted to, and you were just to go up and around a little loop and then drop the sandbags off again. It wasn't too difficult at all.
Like the wind, what's on your mind? Believe that
This next one was one of the more fun ones. It's Crybaby. And the objective here is that you crawl through this tunnel. I cut the video a little bit short to not have it sit in dark for so long, but in the tunnel they're pumping in their equivalent of tear gas. It was kind of menthol-y, kind of fresh, but definitely got your eyes watering, your nose running, and it was a lot of fun to go through it and afterwards get out of it and see everyone's responses to it. While in it, it was kind of hard to breathe, and so you were really motivated to get through it as quickly as possible, but a lot of fun. We really enjoyed this one. The next obstacle was Texas Hold'em. I would say this is probably one of the only obstacles that required balance and patience. There was definitely a technique to get down the traversing across these obstacles. It was a team activity, and as they swayed back and forth, you had to take your time and make sure that you're balancing. Wesley and I tried a couple of times and then made it through once we figured it out. Dylan and Nicholas tried to go a little too quickly, and it took them a few more tries to get through it, but eventually they did, and it was a lot of fun to get through it at the end. The next obstacle was Tipping Point, and the objective here was to crawl through this tube, and this tube has a teeter-tottering effect. Once you get to kind of a midway point, it's going to flip gravity over and start to slide you down. It's kind of fun, dark inside, and you slide into a pool of water. So we really enjoyed doing this one. Almost immediately after Tipping Point was Funky Monkey, which was a fun obstacle to get through, hanging up above the water. And so the boys did a really good job swinging across it. The objective here was to kind of not slow down and just keep going and let your momentum carry to the next monkey bar, but they did a really good job and stayed out of the water. The next obstacle was definitely one of our top 3 favorite obstacles to go through. It's Block Ness Monster. The objective was to get over these giant blocks that are crossing a pool of water. They're very heavy. The kind of strategy that we took is with some other runners that were in the water is you try to get those big heavy blocks spinning, and then one at a time you grab onto the block and let the momentum of the spin carry you over. And so it took a lot of teamwork and a lot of patience and coordination to make sure that we take our turns getting through it, but it was a lot of fun to get those blocks moving. They don't look like it, but they're a lot heavier when they're sitting in that pool of water. They fill up with water and they just become really difficult to spin. So it was a lot of fun to get that going and then to let it carry you over. The next obstacle is Son of a Ditch. And when we walked up to this obstacle, it didn't look like much, and actually watching the video back, it doesn't look like much either, but when we were there live in person, the ditch is actually pretty deep. I would say it's probably about 10 feet deep, and you walk up into it. It's kind of intimidating look down, and all you really have to do is climb down into it and then climb back out on the other side. So it wasn't incredibly difficult, but was quite intimidating when you saw how big the ditch was. The next obstacle looked more intimidating than it actually was. It's Cage Crawl. The objective here is you have a pool of water and a cage with barely any space in between the top of the water and the cage, and you just are crawling along the water on your back to get to the other side. So once attempting it, it really wasn't as difficult as it seemed, having a cage right above your head, but still was kind of a fun one to The next obstacle was Mount Everest. As you can see in the background of us, there's people stacked on top of each other. I think that's the more traditional way to get over this obstacle. We kind of took the cheater's way and used the rope on the side. The wall was pretty slick and hard to get up without the rope or without doing a human ladder, but we just decided to take the easy way out on this one. The next obstacle was another one of our favorites. It was Arctic Enema, and to call it one of our favorites is kind of strange because it was also one of our least favorites. Going through the obstacle, the video doesn't give it justice, but that water is freezing cold, ice cold. They dump bags of ice into it to get it down to about 35 degrees. And then you got these planks that you got to swim underneath. And going through it, probably the most mentally difficult out of all the obstacles, but after completing it was also one of the most rewarding feelings that we got out of any of the obstacles. So that's why it was a lot of fun for us to go through after it was all said and done. As we get close to the end here, this is the second to last obstacle. This is the Matterhorn, and the objective is pretty easy. You climb up this big rope tower and you climb down it on the other end. The boys did a good job with this one, and as we're kind of wrapping up towards the end, I just want to talk about, what our favorite thing about the Tough Mudder was. And it was a lot of fun doing the obstacles. It was really tough to get through a lot of that running and up and down hills, but I would say the most enjoyable part of it was just getting to spend time with the boys, interacting with the other mudders, and accomplishing something that was so difficult at times to get through. So we really enjoyed our time doing a Tough Mudder, and we definitely would do it again. And this is the final obstacle. This is electric shock therapy. Anyone who knows anything about Tough Mudder, this is one of the obstacles that the Tough Mudder is known for. Essentially, there's these wires hanging down, and you run through them, and they shock you as you run through. Mentally, going into it was the one that we were most nervous about, but after completing it, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. We just ran through as fast as we could, only got shocked a couple of times on those wires, and then next thing you know, you're out of it, so not too bad. And there you have it. That was our Tough Mudder for 2024. It was a lot of fun, and we look forward to doing more in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.